Sorry, Midran. Midran, you had to start over again. You are muted. It's okay.
Wow.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
So, good evening, friends. Welcome to our panel discussion. My name is Midhunan Ravindran, and I'll be your host. I am the youth wing coordinator and a co-host in our monthly men's group meeting at Voice of Men 360. A brief background about me is that I'm a registered practical nurse and I work at the Canadian Mental Health Association in the ACT team. So the ACT team stands for Assertive Community Treatment Team. I'm also a classical dancer, and I also practice Tamil ancient martial art forms and yoga. It's a great pleasure to host this panel discussion, and I would like to thank Voice of Men 360 and the team for giving me this opportunity. We run 2 panel discussions monthly in both English and in Tamil, and we bring a variety of experts from different fields and discuss particular topics. So before I introduce our special guests, I want to give a brief introduction about Voice of Men. So Voice of Men 360 is a nonprofit organization founded in 2020 and is based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 organization was born out of seeing tremendous need for boys and men and stepped up to support them in many areas in life. We're a part of an International Men's Day, which is a global organization. IMD follows 6 pillars and is overall looking out for the well-being of men and boys. It has been serving for over 21 years around 90 countries around the world and have come joined together to do various activities regularly. So it goes to show how much of an impact they're creating. So here today we have a diverse group of panelists. I would like to first introduce River Christy White, founder of Hoops for a Hope, Ms. Kritika Dharmaraja, gender and communications consultant from Sri Lanka, Isabella Grace LeConte, student global ambassador at the Face of Humanity, and Nathan Ramachandran, youth outreach worker. Thank you all for joining and willing to be participating in this panel discussion. So let's first start off by introducing the panel panelists. So I'm just going to go in order in whoever I see first. So I see Nathan Ramachandran first. So please tell me about your background. You're also muted.
I'll start over again. Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Ramachandran, as you said. I'm a youth outreach worker in the East End. I've been doing this for field work almost 12 years, and I see a lot of challenges, a lot of growth, and it's not easy. And we work with all people, just not only South Asian people. We work with everyone, and also we work with resident neighborhood seniors, parents, and also monthly. I do a session every month right now, Tamil Parents Workshop, basically just educating them about our culture, safety, and the laws and all those things that are happening right now. And that's about it. And I do other stuff on the side. I do a lot of sports league, basketball, cricket, volleyball. It's called Toronto Premier Sports League. I have about 4 or 5 leagues running right now. Unfortunately, right now with the whole thing, it's paused for now. But if you do have any questions or anything, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nathan. And it's great to have you here. Next up, I have River Christy. So please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is River Christy White. I am the founder of Hoops for Hope. It's an organization that helps build cultural-based services for children with disabilities and in First Nations communities that are not located in urban centers. So we work a lot with the city-based organizations to build activities for our youth and adults to do on reserves because there is a very big lack of supports and services in rural areas. and most of First Nations communities are considered rural. I also do a lot of work myself talking about mental health. I do some talking about disabilities, advocacy for services, not only for people with disabilities, but for mental health services, for support services for children and youth. And I do a lot of advocacy work for human rights as well. On the more personal side, I'm also a musician and a First Nations hoop dancer. So I dance with 17 hoops that we use to represent the different parts of creation, and we use those to bring medicine to our communities. Thank you.
Wow, that's great, and it's great to have you here. So hopefully today's discussion is going to be a very intellectual one. Next up, I have Isabella. So please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Isabella. I am 19 years old. I'm a student at the Eastman School of Music. I am part of the Face of Humanity as a global ambassador, where our goal is to bring issues in society to light and address them and really fight for social change. And my duty as an ambassador is to spearhead those conversations and talk about things that are troubling us as young adults these days. On a more personal side, I am a vocalist. I travel singing, and I am also a big advocate on mental health and talking about how we can help children in times like this, like COVID, and how we can support people. And yeah, that's what I'm passionate about. I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. Great to have you here. And last but not least, we have Kirtiga.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Kirtiga, and I'm from Sri Lanka. I have been working with media communication with government organizations and non-government organizations in Sri Lanka. So I'm also doing some advocacy work regarding with gender communication and especially with the LGBTQIA plus people. On my personal side, I can write poems, and I'm basically a journalist. So I used to write articles to the newspapers, and I would like to give interviews to the television media and all the things. That's all.
Thank you, Kirtiga. It's nice to have everyone here that also does professional things, but also has a great social outlet that you guys practice. So it's great to have such a diverse group of panelists. So the first question that I have is, based on your experience, what kinds of pressures or challenges do male youths, what do you think they're facing at this time in this time period, especially during COVID? So do you want to? I'll start off with Nathan.
I can go on that one. I mean, especially with the challenges right now, the youth that I've been working with, at-risk youth, these are the youth that I work with, at-risk ones, and right now they're stuck at home and they don't know what to do, and it's just creating a lot of pressure, mental health issues, because they are going at their parents, brothers, because they're all like in one house, they're face to face with everybody, so they don't know what to do. And these are the kids that stays never home. They're always on the road doing other things, and barely they go home just to sleep and stuff, right? So at this time, everything is online. Even I ask these kids to come on Zoom call, just have a dialogue. They don't want to even come on Zoom. So usually what I do is right now is just go back and I try to find out what their interests are or anything, right? And try to have a dialogue based on what they like or what they like to do, right? And have like a phone call with them. Maybe once in a while, I just call in, check up on them, see how they're doing, and what is anything that I could do to help them out with it. And it's been a challenge, but this is one of the challenges that I've been facing right now.
Definitely, and I think everyone can relate to that, because it's really hard connecting with people because of our current situation, but also it's a lot of draining to be in front of a computer all the time too, right? So I do feel that, you know, it is it's hard, but we're staying strong, and hopefully this will blow over soon. Next, okay, Isabella.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were raising hands or such,
No,
but
it's
I'll go next.
yeah, for sure.
I think, yeah, I definitely agree with what he was saying. COVID has been such a strain on everyone, and it's been such a big learning experience for us all, having that big switch from being in person and talking to people and connecting that way on a more humane level to this whole new age of technology and communication online. It's very draining for everyone. I think for young men and boys specifically, it's been very difficult to keep up with studying and how the world is moving academically right now. COVID has been such a struggle, and it's surpassed, I believe, 1 million deaths in the United States, and these cases just keep rising, and it's been a challenge with everything going on politically in the United States at the moment. It's just not an easy time to be. It's not an ideal situation, to say the least. And like a lot of people on this panel, we are all advocating for mental health and trying to talk about how important that is right now. And I just wanted to take this time to express how easy it is to reach out and get help if you need it. There are phone lines such as Kids Help Phone and people online, counselors that will give you the time of day should you require it. And it's definitely difficult. It's a hard conversation to have with parents because they're at home all the time now. Not all parents know the signs of someone who's struggling from mental health, and not taking that step to help your child is not going to help anybody. So we just need to encourage people to seek help when they need it. Yeah.
And it's great that you said that, because a lot of mental health issues isn't really identified. It's just kind of just brushed off, and they're just kind of dismissed. And proper help isn't seeked out, and then therefore causes a lot of complications. So if anyone's watching this today, like if there's something that you need to talk about or need to seek help, don't hesitate, is what I would also advocate too, because there's people that are also really to themselves, soft-spoken and quiet, and then when you go to those individuals, they're not really opening up as is, and then when we're in a situation like this, it makes it even harder for those individuals to actually voice their voice, right?
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Isabella. I have next River Christie.
So one really big pressure in my community, I'm First Nations, and we're very social communities. So one issue, especially in mine, is the distancing, because we have a lot of youth who hang out in groups, stuff like that. We have lacrosse teams, we have a lot of active ways of working through the day-to-day life. And so a lot of our stuff that we do for fun, like lacrosse and hanging out, we can't really do. But then for us, it bridges also into ceremony, which makes it even more challenging for a lot of people. A lot of our youth are very big into our ceremonies, very big into working with the community. And because of our ceremonies require getting together and being in close proximity, we unfortunately can't do any of that. So a lot of our youth are left to sit back and watch our communities, watch all of our ceremonies that we would do on a seasonal basis, stuff like that. They all just go by and we can't do anything. So that makes it very difficult for a lot of people. And then a lot of us as well, we're used to being able to hang out, and unfortunately in communities like reserves and stuff like that, we don't have the ability to Zoom call and stuff like that all the time. A lot of our reserves don't have very big infrastructure. So there are some communities where they have to unfortunately chance the virus to be able to do anything, because of their youth are locked in houses because of there's no infrastructure to be able to do anything online. And that's one thing that a lot of communities are really struggling with as well, is the pressure of leaving behind everything that you're used to for COVID safety. And it makes it very difficult to work out how to keep your mental health up, and work out how to step out of your comfort zone with ceremonies, because of a lot of us are used to having these ceremonies every year, used to having these different things go on. And unfortunately, we can't do any of that.
It's really unfortunate because, these social gatherings is what empowers people and, actually like teaches them about culture, and obviously these valuable things we won't be able to see because of this current situation. And it's good that you brought this up because it's almost bringing awareness to people and to whoever's watching, and, that we need to do other things to come together to bond essentially. So it's important that things like this are talked about. So thank you for that, River Chrissy. Next I have Kirtiga. So what's your perspective?
Yeah, I think as others pointed out that most of the youth they have isolated during the corona pandemic because I think isolation is a big problem for them. And also, I think we have forced them to do all the things through online during the corona pandemic. Because we normally assume that youth are always like to doing things in online. They are using social media and they are using all the websites. They are watching all the websites and they like to do all the things by using online platforms. But this
Mhm.
time, we actually force them to do all the things by using online. But at the same time, it has created some issues like there are health issues, especially as they have point of the mental and psychosocial problems for them. And also, parents and youth, they all are staying home at the same time. So, it's very difficult to manage for the parents, and also it has some issues with the youth also. And also, normally we have discriminated men and women all the time, even at our home also. So when they force them to stay at home for a long time, and we have isolated them to with the society, so they don't have any link with the society, and they they didn't get a chance to move with the social gatherings, and they don't have any chance to share their views regarding the culture and social norms. I think it all gave them a big challenge for them to proceed their career or to proceed their future goals in future. And also, we don't have any other solution to them also, because we didn't uh, provided any solutions to overcome these barriers during the corona pandemic, especially in some communities and some countries like Sri Lanka. We didn't give any opportunity to overcome this type of barriers to the youth. I think this all will affect in future, and also we have to work very hardly to overcome this gap and barrier.
It's true. Yeah, definitely. Because everyone might, at this time feel really confined. But hopefully, like things will blow over and things will get better. But even like the term social distancing, like you're not socially distancing yourself from everyone, right? It's more like physical distancing. I think like terminologies like that need to be used than saying social distancing, because you're not distancing yourself from society or anyone as being social beings, right? So definitely, yeah, we honestly need to stay strong, but need to find people that need help and need to help them in this journey of staying strong. So the next question that I have today is, in what ways are the pressures and challenges affecting their personal lives and family and career are in the future? So people that are obviously going through this, right? What kind of pressures and challenges do you think it's affecting on their personal lives, family, or career and their future. I think we've already kind of touched upon this because we've discussed about how it's, as Kirtika said, like in the long run, this can affect them in a long-term basis because they've become so socially isolated that it's hard for them to actually, make a conversation with someone or develop those social techniques and social cues. It's going to be really hard to engage in things like that. So what are some of your perspectives? I'll start off again with like Mason.
I think it's a very challenged time, and especially right now, being at home hoping and also being able to things you are able to do as a family and stuff. And unfortunately, you can't do those things right now, right? And also, just parents, I mainly say.
Sorry, can someone mute themselves because maybe it's a lot of background noise. Sorry about that.
Hello? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's a very difficult time right now, especially being home at and challenges with the parents and all this stuff. And kids, one thing I tell them always do is, what are the challenges you go through in life? It's always look out for the better thing. You always what your interests are. Look forward. There's always you could use your time, research it. There's a lot of things happening online right now, right? You could focus on those things and see what's mainly keep your activities going. Don't let these things affect you right now. We've been always going through almost about 10 months right now, and we have to fight through it. And that's what it is right now. That's just the motivation that I give to the youth. And always reach out to people when you do need help. Reach out. There's a lot of people out there able to help you. Always don't wait for it. Just go out and ask people for help.
Perfect. Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously being strong is what's going to help us get through this. But seeking more resources that, that anyone can provide is really important. So hopefully today's session will bring that to light. So thank you for that. Next, I'll go with Isabella.
Sure. Well, I had a comment on education and how that's working these days. As a student, I've been remote since March. I was sent home from school in New York, and I have been online since. And my next semester is starting on Monday. So that's going to be exciting for me. I'm in my second year of university.
Nice.
But I'm in a program in which it is definitely going to be I would be getting a lot more from it if I was there in person. Because I'm a vocalist and a music student, I thrive with musicians around me. That's what feeds my creativity, right? So being at home, I have to find other ways to inspire myself if I don't have my friends around me and fellow musicians. So now I have to be on YouTube listening to music, but you need to find ways to adapt. And I think that's something that's going to be challenging for young people these days, trying to find a way to stay inspired and adjusting to the education system, which is now, for the most part of the world, it's online. And I think that might be a little difficult on our careers going forward, knowing that there are going to be other people in the next few years that are going to be more set up for success than we could have been. But that's also something that we just have to push through and be optimistic about, because it's not helping anyone if we're being negative about it. So you need to find ways to cope and, again, reach out. That's kind of our message for today, I guess, reaching out and taking those steps to better yourself whenever possible.
Perfect. It was really insightful, because learning to adapt and being inspired, I think, are really great things that you've said, because these kind of things are the ones that are going to be able to help individuals get through this, right? So thank you for that. So next I have River Christie.
All right. So I really liked what Isabella and what Nissan brought up. And some things that are very difficult is, of course, I talked about how in a lot of First Nations communities, they don't have internet. So a lot of our children have to work on school stuff like that through physical handouts. There's people at the school who meet with parents and stuff like that and give them their handouts for their schoolwork. But then there's also challenges in the disability community as well. I work really close to the disability community, and because of I help set up services for them. And one of the biggest issues that we find is the lack of socialization brings about a lot of mental health issues in people with disabilities, but also you have a lot of issues with, especially younger ones, with speech impediments or like later language learning, who end up losing words or losing the ability to talk altogether due to the lack of social, like without the socialization, they end up losing these skills because of they work so hard on them all the time. And then for them to have to give them up because we have to do a lot of social distancing, a lot of families with disabilities or children with disabilities don't have the ability to go out to the store because of parents don't know how their children will react and things like that. So sometimes these children are stuck at home for the entirety of the 11 months or so that we've been in the pandemic. And it makes it very difficult because of this affects not only the children, but the parents who have seen the progress of their child go down after working so hard to bring the progress up. And then also making parents worry about if their child will ever be able to function at the same ability as the other, I'm going to say in quotes, like normal children. I don't say that children with disabilities are not normal, but I say that they're just, we're all just a different form of normal because there is no one set of rules on what a normal person is. And it makes it very difficult because I myself, I have autism spectrum disorder. I have what's called Asperger's syndrome. And so with me, I find a lot of the lack of socialization becomes very difficult because of you can't practice a lot of the skills that you've learned because of a lot of things are lost through online communication, like tone of voice, meaning, sarcasm, things like that. All of those are very difficult to understand through text. And then a lot of the communities don't have telecommunication abilities, the abilities to get on Zoom calls and stuff like that. So it's even harder for a lot of other people.
Sure. And it's great that you're bringing this up because, you know, it's important that we give awareness that in Indigenous communities, how living conditions are like, and it's important. And thank you for sharing that because I think the world needs to hear this and they need to get awareness on this matter. So thank you so much for that. And I have Kirtika here. So what's your perspective on some of the challenges affecting individuals' personal lives, family, career, and for their future ultimately?
Yeah, and I think as I pointed out earlier, we have to think about the short-term effect and the long-term effect of COVID pandemic, especially on the youth community, because we always think about the short-term effect, but long-term effect will uh, have a lot of issues regarding with the youth community because our community structure and our community attitude towards youth is always misunderstood by others. So I think we have to work on that because a family member and social community, society, and government organizations, non-government organizations, and youth groups, all the people belongs to all community level, I think have big responsibility to build up things regarding with youngsters. So government plays a very important role of giving instructions or awareness or advocacy programs at different level. I mean, the school level or at the university level or at the community level and all the level, I think politicians also have to play a very important role on that, because normally, especially when we take Sri Lankan politics, it's family 100% different from other politics. So I think they must have a big role of build up all the things, especially uh, they have to build up the capacity and the emotional well-being of youth, especially the male youth, because we normally always worry about the female youth, women empowerment and all the things. We don't bother not much about the men issues and men empowerment all the time, because it's a global agenda. So I think this time we have to think about the male youth and their issues, and their future, and what type of advocacy things we can do, all the people in personally. So I think we all have a big responsibility to build up things regarding this.
It's true, and as is in Sri Lanka, the political dynamic is just that's they're a different situation. But in that situation, too, you know, having to fight through that and also work on your mental health, it's truly hard. And I do feel my heart goes out to all the people there for that reason. So thank you for so much for sharing that. And I hope that there's more advocacy and more things that are done to help out in that sense for our current situation. So thank you. So my next question that I have is, how can male youths break through the silence and stigma and stereotypes and can be more open, and ways to make themselves more open and engaging, and why it's important, obviously, especially nowadays. So I'll change up the order now. So let's first start off with River Christie.
So, one of the reasons why it's important for especially young men and boys to break through stigmas and stereotypes about what it means to be a man, as a lot of Western societies describe it. It's important because of the sorts of behavior that can be attributed to it can be very I guess I'll say effective in their mental health. So to give an example, with the idea that men don't cry, they're not very emotional, stuff like that. Those sorts of stigmas and stereotypes silence them into not coming for supports and things like that for mental health issues if they're and not only for major issues but even minor issues. I know some days I just have a rough day, and like talking to people helps, and it may not necessarily just be about mental health, but all of those little issues can pile up. It's one thing that a lot of people don't really remember is that those small little things that everyone goes through in some people's minds piles up, and that's what leads to a crisis. And how we can prevent that is by breaking through those stigmas and stereotypes about allowing men to be more emotional, allowing men to reach out when they need help and not feel like they're going to be less of a man.
For sure.
Because that's one big thing that a lot of people talk about, is the idea that they don't want to talk about their mental health. They don't want to talk about their emotions because they feel like others will take advantage of that. They'll use it as a leverage to say that they're less of a man than anyone else. And unfortunately, that is not the case, but a lot of people have that in their mind. And it takes a lot of work, but one thing that I feel is that we need to be able to break that idea that men can't be just as emotional as anyone else, and that they can't improve themselves.
No, for sure. And it's great that you're bringing this up because obviously within the Indigenous community, there's it's really nice because correct me if I'm wrong, like two-spirited individuals, right? And that how they're assimilated in society. It's great that the framework that they have there, but still that Western kind of like a stereotype of what a man should be and how you should perceive yourself is something that's always there. And I think it's in 2021 that we should break those boundaries because you can present yourself any way you want because we're all free individuals, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's great that you shared that. Thank you. Next, I'll go with Nathan.
I think River made a good point of all this stuff. For me, always men's been silent emotionally. They don't bring it out, as he said, right? My thing with bringing this out to the sports, because I'm always into sports, I bring out emotional attach to some of the sports they play, right? And all these youth, especially youth and stuff, young males as passions towards sports. And I always tell this guy, look at these things that people are went through in life, people are way more emotional and problem they are facing in their life than all of us here, right? And they're where they're right now. They're next level. They make millions of dollars, right? Because they went through the path, the hard path, and always motivate them to look up go back, look at the history, right? And these guys are making $1 million, not that just easy. They don't just wake up and make $1 million. They have worked hard for it, right? And we all have emotional, some, especially young men do have emotional. They don't want to show to people. They keep it within themselves. I always say, bring it out. You have to release it at one point and let people know this is what it is. And always go with your passions and see if there's need to be emotional. There's always emotion attached to everything: family, friends, sports, anything you like. There was always emotion attached, and we don't see that. And bring it out and give it to the people that you need to see it.
It's for sure. And obviously with playing sports too, that gives you and it teaches you teamwork is important. It makes you goal driven, and it also is healthy because as me, like I'm not really good at sports, but I liked playing it because there was that common motive of working together for a common goal. So that's something that a lot of people I think should do too, because it's something that will keep us strong at these times. So thank you so much. Next, I'll just pick on Isabella.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with what Nissan was saying. It is incredibly important to have something that you're passionate about, that you can pour in all of that energy. For me, it's singing and dancing. For my brother, it's soccer. For my sister, it's her love for psychology and medicine. It's so important to find that one thing that motivates you and that you can pour your heart into. And I think something that's really dangerous about mental health and the stigma around that is the whole us versus them complex, that situation. When a child or a young man, a young girl is realizing that somebody that they know has anxiety disorder, depression, suicidal thoughts, when you realize that someone you idolize, somebody that is going through that, it enables you to want to understand, and it enables you to be educated. And again, that's something that I'm really passionate about. Educate yourself. Don't be left in the dark and just let things happen. Take that step, educate yourself so that you can be helpful and you can, make something of your life. And, as an example, like Kristen Bell is a wonderful actress, and Michael Phelps, they're both celebrities who talk about mental health. And that's really important. If you have a big platform, it is important to talk about these things because you have no idea how many young kids are watching and are going to be inspired to do better, knowing that someone they idolize has gone through that. They'll want to know more and, educate themselves, and that's really important.
For sure. And even with me, it's like there was a lot of actresses that I've seen that speak about mental health and even going through mental health, but one would look at them and say, oh, they have everything, but how did they go through mental health? But it affects everyone. It's not
Yes.
just exclusive on just one being, right? So it's true. It's great that
Yeah.
using these platforms. Mm-hmm.
you can have everything you could ever dream of, but that doesn't give you happiness, and then not a lot of people realize that. So it's really important that, celebrities, people with big platforms are sharing those experiences firsthand. I'm not ashamed to say that I have mental health problems. I have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and it's a struggle that I go through with every day. But it's also not something that's going to set me back in life, because I've taken those steps to educate myself on how can I make myself the best person I can be today? How can I take what I've learned from being a supporter in mental health and from being the one suffering from mental health? What are the differences, and how can I help myself to be a better supporter, a better friend, and take care of myself? Because at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of others.
And that's for sure. And I'm so happy that you've talked about that, because it takes a lot of courage to, openly say, hey, I've actually gone through this, and
Yeah.
you're a survivor. So I think that's really
Mhm.
important at this time, because we're trying to break the stigma. There's nothing wrong with having mental health issues. You're not
No.
different, for sure.
It's, everybody goes through things, and coronavirus has been such a challenging year, and I would not be surprised if more people have experienced mental health challenges, like at a spike this year, and now is the best time to be educating yourself and finding ways to cope. And for anybody who's watching, my door is always open, and I'm sure a lot of people on the panel would love to talk to you and find ways to support you, should that be necessary.
Sure, and thank you for that. And I also find that peer pressure also plays an important role in this situation too, because with mental health, there's always that, like with especially men, your peers, what they would think. If I had sometimes friends that would kind of laugh at if a guy would say "I love you" to his girlfriend, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Like kind of thing. And small things like that, like you know what I mean. It's that male toxicity that's kind of imposed, right? So I think
Yeah.
addressing these kind of things and trying to tell the world that these things are okay, and it's okay to show emotion is really important.
There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable, and that makes you such an incredible person for having the ability to share and talk about what makes you happy, what makes you sad. Like, that is what makes you a great person to talk to, someone who's open. And obviously not everybody's comfortable like being so open and telling their story to everybody, but that's something we're all going to be working towards. It's a group effort to make people feel comfortable,
Sure. And Oliver
having
here
a safe space.
yeah, for sure. And Oliver here has commented and said that everyone goes through mental health issues, but noticing that is sometimes really hard, because someone might go through depression. You might not even know that they are depressed, right? Because they could, just play it off like they don't have anything, but reality is they're actually hurting inside. So topics like this are really important to talk about, because we need to find help for individuals like this. So that's great. And learning to bounce back and cope with these kinds of issues is very important. So yeah, thank you, Oliver, for sharing that. And thank you, Isabella, for your perspective. Kirtika, what do you think, and what's your perspective on this situation?
Yeah, I think the thought of masculinity and femininity is the main thing for the stereotypical thing thought,
Mhm.
because we all have the same thought regarding what is masculinity and what is feminine. So I think we have to change this type of thinking among the society. I think media, especially the social media, plays a very important role to create some awareness or advocacy regarding this. And also at this juncture, when all the people they were talking regarding with the emotions of men and women, but as per the scientific thing, and when we're looking at it on gender perspective, women are more emotional actually than men because of their hormone. It depends on their hormone level. So, but that doesn't mean that men doesn't have any emotions all the things. Both of them emotions are also a common thing for both men and women. But we all have some, some stereotype thoughts regarding the emotions. Men are strong than women, and women doesn't have anything regarding with the capacity level, and compare with the level of men and women. And we all have different type of stereotype thoughts regarding with these things. But I think the younger generation, compared with the older one, the younger generation, uh, they have some different thoughts regarding that, which is very, we have to appreciate. At this juncture, I can remember a book which I read regarding with men and women and their communication pattern. Actually, the title of the book is Why Men Are Not Listening and Why Women Are Not Read Roadmaps. It's something Alan and Barbara. I think the author of name of the author is Alan and Barbara. So in that book, they have quoted everything regarding with the issues of men and issues of women. What is the difference between the men and women, and what are the barriers they are facing, both men and women, and the relationship of men and women. So I think we all have to think about the relationship of men and women, and also we all have to work regarding how can we build up a good relationship with men and women. So I think it will help us to develop a better society or develop a better solution for that. So I think at this juncture, we all have to think about these type of things, and also as others pointed out, we all have to think about the mental health and emotional well-being of men and women.
Thank you, Kirtika. And it's true because with that stereotype of what's masculine and what's feminine, right? Because I remember I had a coworker, his daughter liked painting his nails, and he just kept it as, something that his daughter has done, and he just remembers and how cute it was. But people at work would be like, "Oh, what's wrong? Like, is there something?" They would look at it weird, but it's okay to do those kind of things
Yeah.
because it's not, oh, this is for men and this is for women, right? So it's important to address those kinds of issues because that does impact one's mental health, right? Those gender barriers.
Also, I think, yeah, we don't have to worry about others too much also on these things. I think this is our life, so we have to
Yeah.
live our life. Yeah.
Thank you. And having that focus of self-reflection and how, one should, take into account this is your life and you're free being. So do as you please and do things that I should say do as you please, but do things that are constructive and beneficial for you, right? But don't feel shy to express yourself. And yeah, and as Oliver also has added on the comment box, that society's created illusion for individuals regarding to be emotional or showing emotion, and then this is what in essence causes mental health issues, right? So for sure. So the next question that I have are, as individuals or families and communities, how can we help our young boys with their challenges and pressures? What are some things that we can do? So again, I'll pick on, okay, we'll go from Kirtika since I asked the question from a different order. We'll start from Kirtika.
Yeah, I think we have to give some motivation to the youngsters. I think work can do anything than any other thing. So as an individual, as a mother or as a father, as a sister, as a brother, so each one has the responsibility to give some motivations to the youngsters for their well-being and to change all the social norms and all the things. And also, I think community organizations or non-government organizations, government organizations also have the responsibility to give some advocacy things, so awareness programs, or any other type of program, through any other type of program, they can give a betterment or they can give a better solution for that. And also, I think media plays a very important role regarding that, because media can change the people's mind, and they can shape the thing. So I think media also must understand the situations, and also they have to think the situation for both genders. Because normally media always write things and or write. They are looking at things based on the woman's perspective. So they have to think both genders, and also I think we have to have start some programs at the school level regarding these things, because school is the main area for creating new ideas and new thoughts, and teachers plays a very important role of shaping the students' perspectives on this. So I think we all have to work collaboratively regarding this to change the things and change the world on this matter.
And thank you, Kirtika, for that, because social media is definitely the biggest platform that can shape a lot of people's thoughts and ideas, because when we impose or we try to like share things that are positive and things that we can do to break the stereotypes, it kind of makes it a norm and says, okay, that's fine to show emotions, it's okay to wear pink, and things like that, right? So it's that's obviously hopefully we're progressing to something like that. So thank you so much for that. Next, I'll just pick on River Christie.
So for a lot of ways on how you can help is based off of a lot of understanding and building supports. I feel like one of the biggest issues in communities is the lack of supports for people with mental health issues, people who are having a hard time dealing with pressure because of, especially in a large urban setting, there's so many people who are trying to access these services and so little of these services available that we end up in this situation where there's too many people accessing these services, but not enough of these services for everyone to access. So building those services, building the understanding around what people should be thinking about like gender and the idea of like masculinity, the idea that people can show emotion without having to worry about being ridiculed for it. People can wear colors or garments that are normally thought of as feminine because of, and then the other way around is as well, because the issue with a lot of the these sort of situations, I guess, is that is perpetuated by not only media, but also social media as well. I did a thesis in my in philosophy about the idea that the self-esteem issues and mental health are perpetuated by social media. And the idea that one of the biggest contributors to like negative mental health and pressure from peers especially is through the use of social media. And I feel like that's where those sort of ideas start. Because we don't have enough of the academic supports in schools, in like places when you're younger, we grow up with these ideas sort of ingrained in our minds. And then as we get older, it becomes difficult to realize that those ideas that we were traditionally taught are false. The idea that these services should be brought in at a earlier level, like elementary schools, I believe, should have talks about mental health, should have talks about like the idea of not approving of the message of like toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, those sorts of ideas, and building that bridge that shows that like men can show emotion, that these ideas that we were taught before may not be the be all end all, and that we can improve.
Sure. And like as you said, it's important to when you put stuff out in social media, what you're putting out, right? Because a lot of people might think, oh, this is pretty cool or whatever, but actually it's not something that's nice, and it's important to look out for that, right? So because like obviously, like I would say social media has its ups and downs, because before the whole like things are now starting to slightly come in, I would say, about body image, right? Before
Yeah.
more bigger size people weren't really showed. It was more like petite size or smaller size people, but we're slowly bringing that in and saying, you know what, but there's all kinds of shapes and colors, and people come in different shapes and forms. So it's okay to look a certain way. You don't need to be a stereotypical person
And
that Mhm.
that's something that is very big on my advocacy work, is the idea of how in the media, over the last little bit, we've seen a lot more of media choosing people of color, people of alternative body sizes of what normal media perpetuates as like the standards. So like you'll see, I remember the movement of like the dad body sort of thing, where it was like the idea that men didn't have to have a rock hard six pack and giant biceps to be considered a man. And the idea that these sorts of ideas can are not always the right or the like, as I said before, be all end all, is something that we all need to like work towards. And I do acknowledge that society has been working towards it already, but I feel like pushing it even further can make it even more normal and help a lot with dealing with pressures and mental health. And that's something that I feel is starting to get reflected as well in music. More recently, you see a lot of musicians not afraid to talk about their struggles as a musician or even as a person. And those are the sorts of things that I bring into my music as well. A lot of my music is very personal and very emotional. And that's in the idea of sort of fighting off the stereotype and the idea that like men can't show emotion, or like that we should be afraid to say who we are and how we feel.
No, for sure. And I would also like to acknowledge that, I'm grateful of being born in Canada, that the Indigenous communities, people of color that are Black and different race people that have come to Canada before and paved the way for our freedom, because we can, like easily go around and be free. So it's important that, like, that acceptance and that encouragement is brought out in communities. And thank you for sharing that. Next, I'll have Isabella. What's your perspective?
Well, I was going to talk about body image, but River Christie kind of covered a good amount of that. I guess my take on body image, growing up as a dancer, it was by no means easy to stay on the right path with confidence as a young kid. Being a competitive dancer, looking at yourself in the mirror like at least 4 or 5 hours a day, it's difficult standing beside people that you might think look better than you. It's all a trick of social media, in my opinion. It's difficult to be confident and body positive when you can see other people who you might think are doing it a lot better than you are. It's really difficult to be confident sometimes. And that's part of the conversation that we're having. And the world is going in a better direction now that we have plus size models and more people being represented in media that are accurate to what they're selling. If we're talking about a clothing brand, like, you want to have different people wearing the same thing so you can advertise it as best as you can. It's not just for the one person or one group of people that might look best in this attire, this dress. So my piece on body image is just finding a way to stay healthy, take care of yourself, but at the end of the day, it's your body. It's whatever you want to do. And finding a way to stay confident and love who you are is the most important thing above all.
For sure. And especially when we relate this to the young boys and men that, as Christy said, like having a chiseled six-pack and, huge biceps. Yes, it is something that is aesthetically considered beautiful, but, being healthy is what the main point is, right?
And happy. Being happy is more important than anything else. And that's what social media has deemed as attractive. And it's not realistic. And that is not what we should be striving towards. We should be striving towards happiness and being healthy, taking care of oneself instead of putting all the pressure of looking a certain way on people,
And then
because it's just unrealistic
and later
and
resorting to,
discouraging.
and later resorting to drugs and different kinds of alternatives to achieve
Mhm.
that, right? So for sure, I think that's also really important. Nathan, what's your take on this?
Pretty much everybody covered a lot of stuff on it. My thing is being South Asian, and one thing I find it very difficult with the South Asian community is mental health issues. Mental health issues been huge thing in South Asia. The problem with us is would never come out, reach out for help. Even being a youth outreach worker, I find that sometimes even a youth need a counseling, basic counseling a youth need. And
Mhm.
parents will right away say to me, no, my kid doesn't need counseling. There's nothing wrong with them. Then I would say, look, I even sometimes do need counseling. I just need somebody to talk to somebody. It's not anything wrong with your kid or anything. He needs somebody to talk to. And it's being and out there, there's a lot of opportunities out there, just being there to come out and getting those services. And that's one thing I find, especially being a South Asian. And going back to sports, I mean, when I was 19 and I wasn't really like a tall kid. And when I first signed up for a baseball, I loved playing baseball when I was a kid. That's one of my major sports. And growing up, and I wasn't tall. A lot of people said, you probably wouldn't make to the team. You don't have the height to do it. And that motivated me. Also, my parents were able to there to support me throughout the whole process that you could do it. And it doesn't matter. Don't just believe in yourself that you could do it anything you want, and just be positive always. Look always positive ways. There doesn't matter what size are you or your body shape or what's out there. It's just being yourself, who you are, and there to do motivate yourself to do better things than other people.
For sure, and thank you so much for it's speaking about that, because it's true, and within a lot of South Asian families, and a lot of, I would say, even general, a lot of families, they would be very hesitant because they don't want to make their child look like they need help or vulnerable. And conversations like this need to be talked about, because it's important to address these kind of things. Because it's okay to just have a talk with someone, or if you're going through, work stress or any type of like relationship stress, to have that outlet, or to seek some type of coping mechanism to cope with these kind of problems. So for sure, thank you so much, Nathan, for that. My next question is, as we know, family, culture, and career play a huge role in everyone's life. How can young males become less stressed or worry-free individuals to achieve more? So again, I'm just going to pick on random people. We'll start off with Isabella.
Sure. So, in my opinion, I think it all goes back to what motivates you and what's your passion is. For me, I've said multiple times that it's music, and that's where I get my joy from, and where I de-stress. I have yet to find a song that doesn't relate to me in some way. If I'm feeling sad, I have songs I gravitate towards. If I'm feeling happy, I have different ones, and I think it's really important to find what you are passionate about, something that you can pour your heart into. Um, for me, I can songwrite. I play a bunch of instruments, and it's easy for me to connect and go down to my roots and talk about things that make me sad, and things that I can connect to. And I think it's important for young men to find something that they can create, or find something that they can put themselves into. And for me, I encourage you to do music, because it's it's something that you'll always have for yourself. And I think somebody else said that they're a musician on here. It was River Christie. I'd love to hear your thoughts on music and how that might help you through some tough times, if any.
Definitely, and music is something that I think everyone would be able to connect with, because it just draws your soul, because you're able
Mhm.
to express various kinds of emotions. You can relate to it. you can sing to it. You know, it makes you really go, it makes you feel your emotions more, and enhances it, right? So
For
um,
sure.
these
And
kind of
dancing as well. You know,
Mhm.
connecting to it with your body instead of your voice or through an instrument. Dancing is an incredible way to express yourself through movement, and there's no right or wrong. You can just do whatever you want, whatever the music is telling you to do. That is correct. That's what you're supposed to do.
Because anything can be music, right? So it's
Absolutely.
that's the beauty in this. It's great.
Yeah.
For
There's
sure.
no right or wrong. That's part of the beauty of it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Christy, for that. And so I'm gonna ask River Christy his perspective as a musician.
So, as a musician, one thing that's really big for me is the idea of just um, I use my music as a form of like catharsis. I don't know if you know the idea. It's a typically used in philosophy. It's the idea of releasing your emotions through an like through a positive outlet. Um, so one of the things that I use music for is like to put my emotions down on something, like to if I have a bad day, I talk about it by making music surrounding that idea, that feeling. And like as Isabella said, like there's always different kinds of music that you can find that really connect to you, whether it's by your emotions, the way that you think, all these different things. You can always find music that'll connect to you in some way. Um, and me as a musician, that's how I make myself less stressed. And worry-free is the idea that I don't have to be put down by my own stress, my own thoughts. The idea that I have all this knowledge that I can use to make something beautiful, something that other people can connect to, is enough for me to be happy and be less stressed. And one thing that I always tell people is to so in my careers course, we had talked about like the idea of certain jobs being being marketed towards specific like genders, stuff like that. You see the typical idea of like construction, stuff like that is for guys, and the like stylists and things like that are mostly women's jobs. And one of the things I talk about is the idea that what motivates you shouldn't be like changed by the way that society sees it. If you're a female and want to go into carpentry, stuff like that, there's nothing there stopping you other than the idea that these are that this is marketed as a job for this gender. And I feel like those barriers have to be broken at some point, because of if we only had certain jobs for certain people, and that makes a lot less ability for people to access those jobs. One big thing that is very lacking is mental health services, because mental health services are not marketed as a job that you can do a lot in, because of there's the idea that people don't need mental health services because of people should be fine. But that's not how it works. People have issues, people need people to talk to, and if we don't have those services there, then those things will be a lot worse. And so how I would approach this is to tell young men and younger kids to not worry about the stereotypical expectations of certain jobs, and whatever motivates you, take that and do what you want to do with it. Because I would have struggled a lot becoming a musician if I was taken by the stereotypes of what like pop music, things like that, because of the issue with it is that the idea that everyone is perfectly fine, or the idea that people can't connect to you if you don't market something. And I feel like the personalization can be a very big thing as well. Marketing you as yourself is a very big part of being a musician. And I feel like as a musician, I don't like strapping myself to stereotypes or stuff like that. The idea that I should be one way. I like the idea of taking something and doing what I want with it. So I always tell people, find what you want to do in your heart, or find what you want to be, and set that goal and then achieve it. Don't let people hold you back, especially if it's based off of stereotypes or the normal that a lot of people perceive.
Sure, and thank you, River Christie, for that, because a lot of people, as male musicians or stuff, and different artists might just only talk about issues about girlfriend relationships and stuff like that. But there needs to be a more variety of topics and songs that could be written to cater to all kinds of people and audience, right? And as you stated before, and as Oliver has also written, dancing and music is an universal language. Because I think music and dance is something that anyone can enjoy beyond language, because regardless of what language it's written in, if something sounds really nice and you're able to connect with it, it really draws your soul in and creates emotion. So I think that's really important that we focus on things like this, especially during times like what we're in right now, for young men to cope with. So it's really great that you shared your perspective on how music could help heal the soul. Next, I'm going to pick on Nathan.
Sure. I think one thing I find is, do not compare yourself to anybody, right? Be yourself, who you are. And it's always, right, things what you like to do. Always focus on stuff that you like to do. For example, when I'm stressed, sometimes usually I would go outside and hoop basketball, just shoot around, get that out of me, right? That's something that I want to do. Right now, especially right now, winter times, I can't do much. I just go around and walk when I'm in stress and stuff. Be myself, free, get the mind out. And I'm sure all of people have different interests in yourself. Do what motivates you and what's your interest at. Always be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. When you try to be somebody else, that's where that's not you. That's not you. So be yourself, and be do not ever compare to somebody else. What if? Don't ever have a question, what if this, what? We always have what if, then the life you wouldn't have what you want to have, right? Always go with the path that you believe in, and do not compare it. And especially, I always tell these parents to the youth, do not compare your kid how you were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, right? This is totally different. Be themselves, and whatever their interests are, be there to support them, guide them proper way. And that's the only thing they would probably want to ask from you. Guide in a proper way. When they're old enough, they will come back and appreciate you, what you have done for them, right? Just guide them in the right way, and do not compare, I did this 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. No, just think about the future and guide them in the right way where we should be able to see it, and be yourself.
True. And for sure, like everyone really needs to have that realization that everyone's place in life is different, right? I was given the very different kind of privileges in life than you or than Isabella. We all are in a different type of, like, in a different type of struggle, essentially. And so my struggle and my things that I want to achieve in life is probably different from yours, right? So we can't really compare that, even though if we're the same age or for the same nationality or whatever it is. It's hard to compare people because everyone's struggle is different. Everyone's lifestyle and environment that they're born in is different. So we can't compare that, right? For sure. So being yourself is something that everyone needs to kind of take in on this, because don't feel shy to, represent yourself in a way that you please. So thank you for that. And I think that's going to correlate really well with what Kirtika is going to say, because she's a gender person that works with gender and the LGBT community. So what's your perspective on how men
Yeah.
Mhm, or individuals can?
Yeah, yeah, obviously, I think so. As I pointed out earlier, this is our life, so we have to shape it, or we have to frame our life by ourselves. And also, it depends on the individual, because as others said, some people like music, or some people like reading books. For me, if I get tense or if I stressed, I have started to read a book. Or sometimes the cooking is also a good thing for a stress relief, because as we all know that cooking is not a girl thing. It's also men can also participate in cooking or preparing food for them. So it depends on the individual. So they have to find out that which is their passion and which one will help them to come out from these type of pressure, especially pressure from their family and pressure from the society and pressure from their cultural things and cultural values. So they have to find out their way to solve these type of issues. So it depends on the individual actually, because they have to find by themselves to be to how can they can be happy by shaping and framing things. And also I think family also can be a very part of supporting this on this venture, because parents and their teachers and their colleagues or their peer groups, and also they have to have supported each others on their interventions regarding with identifying themselves, or how to motivate themselves and how to identify their passions on this. So I think it depends on the individual, and so they have to find out themselves, and they have to develop their own thoughts and ideas regarding with that. So they don't want to worry about, they don't want to much worry about the society and the social norms and the cultural barriers and cultural pressure on this, because uh, it's all, it's all we have developed those things for well-being of us. So it should not stop us to live whatever we want to live. So I think so we have to develop ourselves on this, and so be happy, and we have to be happy, and we have to try to make others happy. That's all.
For sure. And thank you, Kirtika, for that, because it's important to have that self-reflection, because at the end of the day, it's your life that you're living, and you don't need to be scared about that, right? We are free beings, and being free, it's important to be yourself. And that's what mainly, when we get into that whole realm of trying to adjust and assimilate to society's needs or various individuals' needs, that's when things get complicated and we run into a lot of mental health issues, right? So it's important to see that. And obviously, as a male classical dancer, I was kind of looked down upon because they're like, oh, like that's for girls, right? But they did not know how much dedication and hard work that classical dancing has, right? Because it looks simple to do, but in reality, it's actually very hard to do, right? So having that self-reflection is really important. So thank you, Kirtika, for that. So my last question, I know we're kind of a bit short on time, but we'll touch on the last question. So the last question is, do you believe that there should be more subjects and programs related to masculinity at an academic level? So I'll start with you, Kirtika, first, since I picked on you last.
Yeah.
What do you think about
I don't think so. I don't think so, because when I take Sri Lankan perspective, or when I take the Sri Lankan community, we don't have much knowledge about the programs regarding with masculinity, or program regarding with men and compare with the women. Because we are always talking about the issues related to talk regarding the issue. Being a woman, I understand that we have suppressed by the society, and the thought regarding with women and men. But at the same time, we have to realize that men also has some issues, and since we have been talking we have been talking for many years only regarding with the women issues and the girl child and their issues and all the things. We didn't touch upon the men issues and all the time. So I think we have to have started a lot of programs and advocacy work regarding that, even though we have gender studies at the university level. because recently only we have started the gender study courses at the university level, but not much at school level. But we don't much touch about the men issues on. We are talking about women issues. We are talking about LGBTQIA issues. So we assume that always men don't have much issues. That's the main issue, I think, because we always thought that men are always living in very comfort society, so culture and social norms and economic things and all the things support men. So we thought that men don't have much issues, but they have to think those things, that because sometimes when we are talking too much about one community, obviously another community will suppress by the same another community. So I think men also have started, as they have the other panelists pointed out, there are a lot of mental issues and mental health issues. uh, the men are facing a lot of mental health issues. So we don't think much about things. So I think we have to start different type of programs at the university or at the school level or at the community level regarding this masculinity things and we have to talk about the issues based on the gender perspective, not with the woman perspective or not with the men perspective. I think we have to talk things. We have to start to talk the things with the gender perspective. So I think uh, we all have to work together on this.
For sure. And it's great that you mentioned that like they have gender studies in university, but there's nothing in high school level or elementary school level. And
Yeah.
these kind of things should be talked about at a young age because that's what shapes them, right? So hopefully there is some change that happens in Sri Lanka. But we'll keep strong for that. Thank you so much, Kritika, for that. I'll pick on Isabel now.
Sorry, did you call on me?
Yeah, Isabel. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I think it should be incorporated into curriculum and health class. I remember taking health class in when I was a kid, and we just covered like nutrition and physical education, which is also very important. But I think we should add to that mental health education and body image and confidence, and building that in young kids a lot sooner than being able to take classes in university, which I think it's a little too late to be learning about these things.
Sure.
I believe it is from ages 15 to 19 where suicide rates are the highest. And by then it's too late to be learning about how to help yourself. You should be learning at a young age. I wish I'd learned about mental health rather than experiencing it and then needing to educate myself as I go through and stumble. It would have been a lot more helpful learning about it in middle school, perhaps. So I think we should definitely have more programs sparking that conversation a lot sooner in our education system.
For sure. And I think also like teachers should have that impact too, because when someone is like talking about body image or if someone's an LGBT represents like that, it's okay to talk about those kind of topics and introduce them to the kids that are little. So then they understand that, okay, if someone is a bit different, it's okay. It's not their fault. You know what I mean? It's their genetic makeup that they're doing this, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? So if regardless of their body image and stuff like that, I think these topics do need to be taught in at a younger age, because it will make them open, and it will lessen a lot of bullying and a lot of peer pressure in school.
Yeah, it'd be teaching acceptance and respect, and I'm all for teaching that as early as possible. Like respect for others has always been something that has been like one of the first things that I've learned from my parents. Treat people with respect, treat people how you want to be treated.
Sure.
Strive for happiness, never disclude people, never be a bully. Like these are basic things we should be learning from a young age, and taking classes in universities far too late to be learning these very basic things.
For sure.
It should be incorporated a lot sooner.
Yeah, so because it's sad, because it's like a lot of younger children, if they're getting bullied for for something, the teachers really only intervene if there's a complaint that kind of comes out. But if we talk about things like this openly, those things won't even occur. So
Right.
it's really important to bring that education, that awareness, as you said. Even something like health class, simple as a nutrition or whatever, they can teach this in conjunction with
Yeah.
that, right? So it's great that
And,
you
you
brought
know,
that up.
I think teachers should also be educated on mental health and how to see in a child that they're struggling, like recognize those signs in mental health.
Mhm.
All teachers should have some sort of certification that they know about mental health and they're well educated on it. You know, I'm studying to be a teacher for music. I'm going to be having my Bachelor of Music in Education as well as voice opera performance.
Oh, wow.
But I want to make sure that as a teacher, I will never, ever be uneducated on how to help my students. That is a life goal. I will never, ever be unprepared helping somebody on something that I needed help with as a young girl. Yeah, I want to make sure that all teachers are ready to help.
Yeah, and
because we know that it's needed.
for sure. And because it's like, even at a young age when I got bullied, like I wish they brought these kind of topics, because kids
Yeah.
would be aware of these things, and they wouldn't really, they would think that it's okay that someone's different, to accept that. So thank you so much for that, Isabel. Next I'll ask River Christie for your perspective.
So I do believe that there should be more programming and more academic supports in place for being able to teach this stuff, because of like Isabella said, the one issue I see with the system and the idea of only teaching gender studies in university is, like Isabella said, most crises happen when you're in your adolescence, young adults, maybe even younger than that. So what happens is you end up with this really big struggle, and then either having to teach yourself or learning about it later. And I feel like that would be a lot more helpful, especially just coming, like, I just finished my high school. And going through high school, I've watched friends have to struggle with mental health. I've struggled with mental health. And it's a very difficult thing, because of at that point, unless you've gone through it, you don't really know how to react, how to assist, things like that. And that's one big thing that I feel should change. Someone shouldn't have to go through crisis or watch someone go through crisis until they get the education and the help that they need. And that's one sad thing about like the way that society works at the moment, is that for most people, at least in Ontario where I live, you have to have gone through some sort of mental health crisis to access a lot of the services that they have in place for mental health. So those sorts of systems can be set up to preemptively work on assisting with mental health, but we unfortunately don't do it. And I feel like there should be a push to help teach about mental health at a younger age, be able to talk about masculinity and get rid of the stigmas of toxic masculinity and femininity, and be able to talk openly about these sorts of topics without having to worry about harassment and bullying. And like Isabella said, I also feel like there should be some sort of education for like coaches, for teachers, for people who look after younger kids, because of, if you see those signs, you can assist and help before someone has to go into crisis. And those are the sorts of figures that a lot of people look up to. I personally look up to a lot of my teachers who were able to help me while I was struggling, because of those sorts of supports I had a really hard time finding. And that's one thing that I feel shouldn't have to happen. You, as a child, you shouldn't have to feel lost. The idea that you have nowhere to go. I feel like if teachers and coaches and those sorts of role models were trained on how to work with mental health, work on identifying bullying, harassment, stuff like that earlier, then they would be able to be much more impactful on their students' lives.
For sure. And it's harder now with whole COVID situation going on, because you're not physically there to see a student and see if they're actually, you know, going through a struggle, because we're all seeing everyone online. I'm not really seeing the whole picture. I can't pick up on nonverbal cues, right? So it's going to be really hard, but hopefully things change. Thank you so much, River Christie, for that. Nathan, what's your perspective on the situation?
I think I agree with River and Isabella said most of the stuff, pretty much all the stuff. I mean, kids need to be taught in very young age, and when they get 15, 16, it might be sometimes too late for them to understand also, right? Teach them when they're young. Also, I think not only kids, parents need to be educated too, right? Parents definitely need to be educated about the whole mental health issue. Sometimes we don't even know what is mental health is. I have struggled in the past with my parents group and stuff. Even you explain to them what is mental health, you see this, and parents will argue with me and say, "No, my kid doesn't have mental health." I'm like, "You don't know this stuff. We don't know this," and that's where I find a lot of time with the Tamil parents, especially with the South Asian parents, need to be educated. What is mental health? And what are things you need to see? Where is the supports and all stuff? And definitely need to be educated. Teachers and mentors, leaders and stuff, they all need to be educated. What is mental health is? Mental health need to be a subject should brought into school very young age. And teachers should learn about this and should able to qualify and help kids if they do have mental health issues and stuff. Teach them when they're very young. And when they get 15 and 16, older, these are time, as Isabella said, kids suicide, kids do other things that we don't want them to happen in the future. And especially you look at it recent years, there's a lot of suicide that happen because of mental health and stress, pressure, all those things that have been happening. And especially with my own experience, some of the kids that I have worked with has done certain things that they cut themselves and all those things. They go through this stuff. And because of mental health, there isn't a proper guidance there. And sometimes it's too late for them to understand what is mental health, what do they need to be done. I think very young age, it's not only the kids, also parents need to be educated too.
And for sure, like I see nowadays that at workplaces they're providing EAP helplines for people that are, you know, stressed out at work, and EAP, these kind of helplines are for people that work and have like any kinds of issue, whether it be regarding something about you moving into a different home, or you're having issues with your diet, or it has a whole range of different kinds of help in that it's pretty resourceful. So a lot of people need to access that. And as you said, like a lot of communities and families, they're so stigmatized that they think, oh, we're fine, we're normal. It's just, he just needs to, you know, take some rest and then he'll be back to normal again. But that's not always the case. So thank you so much for that, Nathan. So if anyone has any questions from the audience, please feel free to share your thoughts, or if you have any questions, please shoot your questions in the chat box. And I'm just going to conclude today's session because it's really interesting to hear all these different perspectives from everyone, and hear your insight on these things. And truly discussing these things have brought light to developing more planning that needs to be done in communities, right? Every community are facing different kinds of challenges, and when it comes to boys and men during this pandemic, it's really affected them a lot, because the way of things that we do as considered normal has totally been changed. So it's important that we stay strong, and hopefully people that are watching this, they can take out the positive and optimistic things that we've talked about and try to utilize that in their life to further help them and become better beings. So thank you so much, guys, for you sharing your stories and your perspectives. I'm sure that all of you can relate to all these situations and benefit from our discussion. I just have a quick few announcements to talk about. So a distinguished panel discussion. This is recognizing the second observance of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Men and Boys. It is an internal panel discussion. You won't want to miss this, so please join. We will have special guests from Kenya who was abused by domestic violence, and he'll share his story. So I think that would be a really interesting and unique experience. So I invite everyone to please join in on that. We have 4 live shows this week. One is called Open Up, It's a live show that's on every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and a weekly webinar on Saturday from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Sorry, Eastern Standard Time. And we have another show called Vili. It's a Tamil live talk show that's on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for people who live outside of Canada. And the fourth one is a panel discussion that's once a month in both English and Tamil. There's also podcasts for Open Up in English, participants at your convenience, and Vili, which means I in Tamil. This show is also, you can participate at your convenience. We've started our monthly men's group meeting, the third of every Sunday, every month from 7 to 8 p.m. It's an open group where anyone can join in and share their insight. There are no limitations to gender, age, nationality, ethnic group. All can come in and participate. If you want to be one of the guests at our show or willing to share your story, please feel free to contact us directly or indirectly. We would like to include you in our shows and listen to your story too. We'd love to work with all kinds of individuals from different kinds of professions and communities and associations and corporations. So please feel free to reach out. So in the chat box, we've also provided the phone number. I'll just say it again, just so that everyone can find out. It's 437-889-8329. It's 487-889-8329. And our email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. We also have a website, which is www.voiceofmen360.org. We also have various social media groups and stuff like that. So thank you so much for joining today and sharing your perspectives. This discussion was truly engaging. So I would like to again thank River Christie, Isabella, Kirtiga, and Nathan for joining us and sharing your perspectives. Thank you all here. Thank you all our viewers for joining us and listening to this discussion. Okay,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Bye.